Hi, this is Rex from Valhallagames. Welcome to Valhallagames podcast, episode 12, a dirty dozen. So we've been podcasting for 2 years now, and 12 episodes, so that equates to one every 2 months. We're pretty happy about that, Dan and I, for a couple of guys that would probably rather paint than talk, or play than talk. But we hope you've enjoyed these 12 episodes, and we've got lots of ideas coming up. In fact, our 12 episodes have been probably longer than your average podcast, and we've got plenty more content to come. So sit back and enjoy it. This Dirty Dozen episode, dirty because part 2 is about those dirty Waffen SS that Dan's just painted up recently, and the issues and concerns about putting those on the table, or is there any concerns? Should we just do whatever we want because it's only a game? Anyway, sit back, enjoy, and listen to what we've got to say about all the new stuff and what we've been working on, and then our special feature at the end. Don't forget to visit our YouTube page, and you can most easily find that via the blog, which is Valhallagames.net, and then click on the link at the top of the page to YouTube. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to you soon.
I think you know very well I was never in favor of you leading this operation. So I can't say that I'm disappointed in your performance, because the impression you made on me was distinctly unfavorable in the first place. Colonel Breed's report on your unit's level of achievement and general behavior at the parachute training school is entirely negative. It would in itself justify my recommendation that this entire operation be canceled. Your men will be sent back for execution of sentence. Whether or not disciplinary action should be taken against you personally is a matter for General Warden here. I take it you don't deny your responsibility for the fact that on the night of April 14-15, a military establishment of the United States Army was the scene of a drunken party at which no less than 7 female civilians took an active part.
Oh, yes, sir. They took an active part, all right.
All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Rex, welcome back. I hope you're all well over there and you're safe and well.
Yes, sunny Australia here is coming out of COVID-19 crisis, and without going to a whole saga on that, I think everybody's heard about enough of it over the last little while. It's back to be kind of getting back to normal, so happy about that. Certainly all the hobby stores are open again, and to be honest, I was busier than ever, and I envy all those people that had their, what should I paint now that I've painted my whole lead army while I've been home on COVID.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose now plenty of us painted so many miniatures over this lockdown, if we are lucky. And big thanks to people who weren't in that mode as well, because they were working for each and every one of us, by the way. But if we did get through a big pile, there's a whole lot of new stuff starting to come through as well that, you know, manufacturers are finally able to release and get out to us. I'm pretty excited by it all. I notice a massive amount of stuff from Rubicon models either being released or they're showing us that they're in the process of working on. Have you seen that stuff, Rex?
I have. Yeah, they're pretty good at sending out updates by email, actually. And I always look forward to getting their updates. They're doing some interesting stuff with the interior of tanks and other various vehicles. That's quite interesting, isn't it? It's almost a crossover to scale modelers.
Yeah, I think we said this before, and we'll probably remark on it again, that a lot of scale modelers are making these easy to build minimum parts sort of kit sets, and yet our scale 156 28mm, a lot of them are getting more and more detailed, heading towards the scale models. So yeah, it's interesting. I had thought about getting maybe one of something and making it like a blown up revealed interior type tank or something like that, just to see what it looks like.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like a little diorama stuff. And when you get it done, you can send it to our dad to put on his bookshelf.
Yep. He can look at it and go, bloody rubbish.
Yep, that'd be right.
Yeah.
So there's some new stuff there. Yeah, it's really, really nice. What else have you noticed in the new stuff area of life?
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to... I got another update on my Fallschirmjäger Kickstarter from May 40 Miniatures. So they are making good headway. Now their casters are... I believe it's the casters. Sorry if I haven't got that exact reason. But yeah, somebody's swinging into gear now. I think there's something like 10,000 pieces of casting that they have to get out and done and back off people for various resin and metal and get them out to us. So I'm really looking forward to that, and nobody's fault that everyone had to shut down, and I don't begrudge them that, or that we haven't got it in our hands yet. So really looking forward to it. It's going to hit me one day when I'm sure I'll just have just no models left to paint whatsoever. You're right.
Yeah, I don't think so. I've seen your PayPal account.
Yeah. I'm pretty good. I got through a whole bunch of stuff over this lockdown, but I think we'll talk about that one later probably, and what I managed to get through. So I'm pretty fortunate in that way. Have got a few new things. We'll talk about that probably later as well. But
all right. So one thing I've been pretty excited about is getting the Stalingrad book from Warlord Games, the Stalingrad campaign book. So I ordered mine as a good fanboy. Ordered it from Warlord Games Direct, so that I got the special edition model. But then I heard that they were having delays again due to COVID-19. So I thought, well, I just can't wait. So I went and bought it locally as well.
Right. Okay.
And then a funny thing happened is that I didn't get time to read it because I was so busy. And now the other one's arrived as well, and I still haven't read it. So I got two Stalingrad books in a miniature.
Right.
So I'll be flicking one off on eBay. I would send it to you, Dan, but it costs like $700 to post it with Australia Post.
Yeah. I'm pretty fortunate sending stuff the other way to you. That New Zealand Post is probably, well, it's the best postal service that I know of in the world, and I've lived in a few places.
Yep. Yeah, so I've hardly opened it honestly, but it looks really nice. I'm really looking forward to doing it. I was thinking about doing a review, of the book, but lots of people have done that before us, so that'd be ground that's already covered. But what I thought I might do is, in preparation, because I'm still painting my Germans, my winter Germans, in preparation for actually gaming it, I thought I might work my way through the book and do a list of all the terrain that's required for each of the scenarios. Get in a bit of an Excel spreadsheet, because it's always good when you get in an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's good. And maybe we can visually sort of show or talk about it on YouTube or on the next podcast or something like that. That'd be good, really useful for our listeners.
Yeah, so it'd be good to know. Scenario 1 requires a 6x4 standard not town type mat, and 2 hills, and then scenario 2 requires the same 2 hills, and this mat and these 3 buildings and whatever, so that people can work out what they need for each scenario and kind of do that like slow grow situation where you start out through the book, but you know what's ahead of you in terms of terrain that you need to make, big, borrow, or steal, or even if it just comes down to a couple of books under the paint sheet or whatever's going on.
Yeah, good. That sounds really good.
As well as that, there's a couple of Civil War releases that you've ordered, haven't you? Or you're going to order. A couple of brothers I probably should know about, but seeing I know absolutely nothing about Civil War, do you want to enlighten me there?
Yeah, so those miniatures are the Chamberlain brothers. They're the giants in miniature, which I don't know if it's a subsidiary of Wargames Illustrated. It appears to be some sort of affiliate. But yes, it's the pair of the brothers.
Well, don't tell me about the brothers, because I'm going to watch the Civil War, Ken Burns' Civil War again, and I'll learn all about it. And then when I know, I'll be a mini expert on the subject.
Okay, well, I won't tell you too much then. I'll just say the terms from the 20th Maine, little round top, and that's all I'll say for our listeners, so that they get a bit of a better view without them having to all watch Ken Burns or get out their research material.
Okay.
And that will instantly jog people's memory who's taken I guess even a brief sort of look at that period, I'm sure.
All right, so now I can name drop the Peach Orchard, Little Round Top, and the Chamberlain Brothers. I can just kind of casually name drop them, and even though I have absolutely no idea in the world about American Civil War. But I heard a little birdie tell me that someone's going to be doing an American Civil War box set soon. So hopefully I'll be coming up to speed before that.
Yeah, that's right. So we had a recent vote on YouTube as to what my next project was going to be. And we did it on YouTube, but also a lot of New Zealand people that know me messaged me. A lot of people who have our email address emailed us separately. And so the results are in, and I can officially declare that the primary project is going to be the Civil War, Perry's Civil War Battle in a Box set, which will be assembled as both Union and Confederate armies. So Rex doesn't have to go and buy any miniatures. I'm sure he'll be sighing a relief at that end. And also, I've decided to actually go for a bit of a dual build, because a lot of our members have sort of only seen a lot of us building Second World War, and we close behind. We had some. We actually had an even vote between, well, once I counted all the text messages and emails, between German pioneers for early to mid-war, maybe something Battle of France or Barbarossa, and also American Airborne. So one of those projects will get started, as well as, and sort of be a joint primary project, I guess, with all the usual side projects I do, a little bit here and a little bit there. And that's good because it'll break up either the khaki drab, the field grey, and or the rebel grey and Confederate blues. So one will relieve the other, I'm sure, and I'll get through the pretty big projects.
Sounds good. I'll be looking forward to seeing those for sure.
Yeah, I think I think just on the top of my head, because it's not sitting here beside me, but I think the Perry's Battle in a Box is 170 miniatures inside there, which was outstanding value. And but when they're all in the same sort of coloured uniforms, it can get a bit fruity. I'll get a bit of a rest on Confederates painting their sort of ragtag uniforms, I'm sure. Yep.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to that. Definitely.
Yeah, and I intend to. I'm trying to look into bases so that I can. I want as a Sabo basis, so I want like a square or whatever, or slightly rounded corner base with the removable inset bases to put my miniatures on, so that I can play the base that is a suitable size to play sharp practice and also black powder, so that I can have the miniatures in for black powder because they're representative, whereas sharp practice is more one-to-one, and what you see is what you get in regards to miniatures on the table, and you remove them when they get casualties. So that's one of the things I want to achieve.
Right, okay, that's interesting. I thought you were initially going to ask about how to base them in terms of the texture and the grass and that. And I was going to tell you that I know a little bit about Little Round Top and the Peach Orchard, so I can probably give you a bit of advice there, Dan.
I like the way you've dropped that in there. Well done. Yeah. Well, of course, if you're going 20th Maine, then I suppose they're going to be a lot of stones and stuff on their base around them, with some undergrowth. I sort of confess I want to make it sort of generic armies with like standard bearers. Obviously, those two characters we spoke about, the brothers, they would push it in one direction, and maybe a few other standard bearers, whatever I could put in and take out, so that the force is usable for more periods. So yes, I suppose it's just looking into that, and that's another reason why the removable miniatures, especially in a command group, would be handy.
Well, I'll know more when I watch Ken Burns' The American Civil War again.
Yeah, for sure. It's I love watching it. It's great.
Good stuff. All right, one other thing that I was thinking of, and I'm not sure if this has dropped or not in the last 24 hours, but I'm starting to see loads of videos which I haven't had time to watch yet from Two Fat Lardies about Infamy. Is it kind of out? Do you know, or are they're just on the cusp of getting it out, and that's why those videos are popping up?
So Rich and Nick have been, in conjunction with Sydney, have been telling us all about it, and they've got lots of things in production, as in tokens, cards, and stuff like that. And Rich is also, and Nick have also basically pressed go in regards to the printers getting it published, and they have published an approximate date or month or something time frame that it's going to be back. So I think they're pretty close to taking advance orders and stuff on that one. And it looks really interesting. I've really enjoyed the chats. I've really enjoyed Rich's passion, in particular, being the lead on the project. And once again, I suppose it's a window to how the man's sort of really into his history as well, to be able to just switch, I guess, primary periods from one period to another like that.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Infamy is a new rule set, as I say, by Two Fat Lardies, and it's a period you would call, I don't know, it's not ancients, is it? What
it is. Yep.
Is it? Romans
ancients. Yep.
You call that ancients, would you? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it looks really good, and as always, they're really excited about it. I have to say though, I'm more excited about their upcoming campaign for Chain of Command, based on a Bridge Too Far kind of era.
Yeah, Market Garden. So I suppose they've hinted at that being maybe a multi-part, which you've done before, a multi-part campaign focusing on different aspects of it. So you could, lift out various pocket-size campaigns from it. So you could play, say, 2-para on the route to the bridge, and that sort of thing, and 30 core up a particular part of the highway, and all that sort of thing. So you can literally lift out commanders or units experiences and play those in a point-sized campaign.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, well, that's about all I've got for new stuff. I'm sure we've missed things, but that's what's caught my eye anyway. How about you, Dan? Anything more?
No, I don't. I've got lots of things that I'd like to talk about when we get into what we've done and stuff like that. But less new stuff, more I got stuff, and hopefully I painted it up.
Great stuff. All right, what do you want to move on to next, Dan? I've got a list of goodies here. What goodie would you like to pick from my goodie jar?
Well, being a big kid at heart, I think that we should hopefully give a goodie to the listeners, and hopefully ask for a present back. So, shall we talk about Patreon?
Sure, sounds good. So, I guess a little bit about Valhallagames for a start. Valhallagames is a multinational conglomerate. We have about 10,000 staff, and our turnover is about $2.4 million a year. Hang on, no, it's just you and me, Dan, and we're just a couple of keen guys that love wargaming.
Yeah.
We don't have a shop anymore. We don't have an online store. In fact, we don't do anything to at this point to make money or generate any income. Anything we send out, anything we post on Facebook or whatever, our devious motives are as follows: we love wargaming. We think you should too, and you should do more of it. And if we can get to do more of it as well, then we're happy. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it definitely sounds good. That sounds like the agenda of Prestige Worldwide, otherwise known as Valhallagames.
Yeah. So yeah, we're just a couple of guys that have been into wargaming for years, and we're trying to promote a bit of a community, trying to encourage people, trying to shine the light on some certain products that maybe people don't know about, and in return, what we get back is lots of goodwill and lots of I guess cyber friendships with people that we don't know all over the world. We get I get Christmas emails from Sweden, and people saying, "Hey, look, this is what I painted," and it excites us and spurs us on to do more on that as well. But along with that, with the hosting, the web hosting, and the cost of the equipment that we're buying and that, we'd like to invest a little bit more if we could. We just have to pull our money for those things that other wargamers might not have, such as hosting and equipment, out of our pockets, and we're absolutely happy to do that, and we absolutely will continue regardless. But a couple of people have asked us, "Hey, do you guys have Patreon? Is that something that you're interested in? Could I drop a couple of bucks your way and help out with that?" And particularly, I guess, with our battle reports. People see our battle reports, and the last one that's just gone live in the last week or so, in the last few days of May 2020. I think we're really quite up there in terms of our quality and content. Would you say, Dan?
Yeah, I think so. Even though we're a couple of guys up to no good, started making trouble in the neighbourhood, we like to put our best foot forward. We're not afraid to invest in the equipment and the scenery and stuff like that, so that we can entertain people and really do try, especially at the moment, because people are having a tough time not getting games in and stuff like that, to get some quality out there, I guess. So this is our way to sort of defray a tiny bit some of the costs. Yeah, so if we never get $1, we don't really mind that much. But if someone would like to go to our website, probably is the easiest, Valhallagames.net, and click on the menu bar up the top right hand end on Patreon. That'll take you through the Patreon page, and there's an option to subscribe to us, I guess, and help us out with the cost of some of the equipment and miniatures and bits and pieces we buy. And as in return for that, your benefit is that you get to continue the content. You'll get things that we perhaps wouldn't necessarily have done, because we only have a certain amount of budget to spend on our wargaming stuff. We get a little bit more budget, we'll probably spend a little bit more and buy the things that you can see. Yeah, the thoughts for me, I suppose, what I've been thinking about giving back creatively is, and I know we've got lots and we won't say them all here, but it's definitely some, like I'd like to create more learning tutorials for people. Paint and learn. Let's have a little bit of history as well as we're painting, and videos, stuff like that. It's a bit of graphic history and to listen to and watch while you're painting, as well as learning. You're getting that out there, so you get to choose a few things, polls and stuff like that, choosing new products, choosing what you want us to do, maybe choosing a scenario in the future, all that sort of stuff. So you're going to get a say. So it very much relates to the background of Patreon, which is, you are a patron. You would be, if you were generous enough to consider giving us a couple of dollars, then you would be a patron, more or less like a patron of the arts of old. You'd pay to upkeep your artists type thing, provide some materials, and in return you get a say as to what sort of topics they paint or create for you to enjoy as well. So it's a two-way relationship.
Yeah, and right now we have 3 tiers. We have the $3 tier, which is $3 a month. That gives you early access to some stuff, some patron-only stuff. Not that we have planned to keep our current content behind a paywall, but it's more a case of, hey, look, if you're giving us $3 a month, we feel that we need to give you something extra. So we'll work out what it is, and we'll give you something extra that only patrons know. And if you go there now, you'll see that there's There's a couple of teaser things on there, and if you were a patron, you'd be able to see what they are, and they're about up-and-coming projects that nobody else knows about. And only we do have current patrons. Only our current patrons will be able to see those. And it's just a bit of fun, and it just creates a little bit of a community. From there, there's the $9 per month one, exclusive behind-the-scenes stuff, voting power, live stream, which we're probably planning to do, but we're a bit unsure about doing a live stream for lots and lots of people. We'd love to keep it sort of kind of community-based. So Rex, Dan, and 2 other guys, we're having a chat and we're doing something and we're building something, and so that would be something you'd get on that. And then there's the VIP patron. If anyone feels really wealthy and really generous, they can slip us $25 a month. Gives us everything else, and that gives you, and we'll also give you some real specialised, personalised support. If you want to do a video link up and have a chat, or you got a bit of a problem, something that you want to work through, or whatever, and we're open to whatever. Just tell us what you think. If you think it's that you'd like to see something, you'd like to get something else particularly, then let us know. We'll probably put it in there. So it's new to us. We've not done it before. And at the end of the day, as we say, it's really important for us to say we're just a couple of guys that want to build a community around Valhalla Games as well as just generally. But if I can say to my wife, hey, look, we got $20 this month, and that's going to help me out with with X project, then I'm more likely to get financial approval, aren't I?
Yeah, definitely. One of the benefits I think I see is that the community gets to tell us what they want to see in return. I guess our YouTube page is growing and stuff like that, but we're not really fixated on trying to monetize the YouTube thing. I mean, maybe one day we will, but we don't really want to, because we'd rather make a few coins to help support the channel rental and stuff like that, the bandwidth rental and stuff through the Patreon, than some random ads for shaving cream and something. I'd rather you paid your time and a few krona towards getting something you want, rather than just be bombarded with adverts for some online gaming and Gillette shaving foam.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of ads. I tend not to watch ads. I tend to construct my life in such a way that I can avoid them. So I don't really want to inflict that on other people.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. I want to give our guys what they want to see.
So, for example, here's some stuff that I've got in my workshop area right now, like right as we speak now. I have the ultimate terrain tile. That's what I'm calling this project. And I've got some terrain tiles, and you will be impressed when you see them, Dan. And there's not that many steps to get the first one finished. And then once I've got that, and I'm pretty happy with it because I've spent quite a long time perfecting my flocking and rock painting methods.
Yep.
When I get that one finished, all I've got to do is record a video and get it up for the next one for people to see. And that'll be a really great project. And some people might like to see that. Other people might like to see me actually finish my my bases for forest bases and trees project. And I've just got project after project after project. And if you're a patron, and you want a particular thing, well, I'll do that for you. Based on popularity, and it gives us some motivation too, because if people are interested in it, I know people have asked for a how-to guide on the buildings that I made recently. I know people have asked for a how-to guide on the big hill we made for the Battleford Johnny 1.
Yep.
And if enough people are interested, I'll prioritise that over other things. And but either way, we've got some good content coming. Have a look at the Patreon things. Have a think about it. If you're interested, do it. If you're not, no problem at all. And let's get on with it.
Great. Excellent. So you said you had some stuff sitting on your bench. Have you got any new stuff there, Rex? Apart from a Stalingrad book, got any new shiny stuff?
Well, as it happens, I have a whole metal army. This is the guy that self-confessed metal hater only a year or so ago. I have a whole metal army for Winter US. Now, those models are a little bit old in terms of when they were released, but they're new to me, and I'm really looking forward to it. And the reason that I'm painting Winter Germans right now is so I can play through Stalingrad with my Winter Soviets. So that came together pretty well. Could have planned that almost. But the next step from there is I'd love to do Battle of the Bulge. Battle of the Bulge is one of my very favourite battles, World War II.
Yep.
And I've just read 2 books on the subject, so I'm fully primed up. And I've got my Winter Germans on the way. So next I need Winter US. So I bought a whole Winter US metal army that I've got to get going on. So that'll be good. I'll be looking forward to that.
Awesome. Yeah, for those who haven't seen, I know I'm jumping into maybe stuff we've finished working on and stuff like that, but those who haven't seen, go to Valhallagames, www.valhallagames.net, and check out the latest post by Rex of his Winter Germans. Man, they look lovely. Well done, Rex.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with them. I've now done enough miniatures and enough armies that I've improved my ability to live up to your Dan's special face painting recipe.
Yeah, great.
And I'm pretty happy with them. And I've we had that episode just recently about clear coats.
Yep.
What a boring topic, really. Like when you think about it. But the more you think about it, that's the final thing. That's the final make or break for the miniatures. And you get it wrong, all those hours that you spent. Oh my gosh. So what I've done is I went out and bought the TS80 that you've made me go out and buy.
Yep.
And I have to say that I'm sold on that now. I won't be going back to test this dull coat. I think it's very similar, but the TS80 I think just wins by a nose. That's Tamiya. But what I've been doing is I've been trying to paint my miniatures with the final step in mind.
Yep.
So if you know, and again we've talked about this before, if you know that you're going to do a clear coat and you know that it dulls back the colour, then you need to highlight up more. Colours need to be slightly more vibrant and slightly more overdone, so that once you get the clear coat on, it comes back to good again. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with my latest stuff. That appears on perhaps the 1st of the 6th, 2020. If you want to go and have a look on the blog, and you're looking at this 5 years time. But yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Good, well done. Anything else? Is that your roundup done?
In terms of new stuff, or in terms of what I've been working on?
Oh, well, how about new stuff? How about new stuff? We'll talk about stuff we're working on in a minute.
I may have ordered 88mm flak gun today. Shh, don't tell me.
A DAC one? Africa Corps?
Yep.
All right. Nice.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. So I've got those 2 I've got now. I've got the
actual Africa Corps ones, to the crew with the shirts off and everything.
Yeah, that's them.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah, so I've got the other one. Well, there's 3 of them from Warlord, but the other one is the not the Air Force one, but the other one, the standard one with the sort of Normandy type.
Yes, there's a Blitzkrieg
uniforms.
one. There's there's the old Blitzkrieg one, which is metal and resin. There's the new one that's also got the same Blitzkrieg crew. Then there's the Luftwaffe Field Division one, which is also, I think, got the same crew. I actually don't know
right.
what.
So what's the actual difference?
I don't know.
The box.
I don't know what's the differences between the Luftwaffe one and the other one. Maybe someone could show me tell me the error of my ways there. I feel like there's pictures that we sort of are underdone on Warlords. Pictures and descriptions I feel are underdone on those on their website. And then of course they got the Africa Corps one that's got the shirts off and tropical Luftwaffe uniforms and stuff. I believe that that the Italeri miniatures inside the box of Italeri's own branded, own packaged one, are in normal are in field smocks, so late war sort of field smocks and stuff for the crew, which sounds awesome. And I'm wondering if that is the crew that's in the Luftwaffe Field Division 88 in the Warlord Games range, but I don't know. I feel like you have to have a degree in Scientology to work it out.
Yeah, well, you know that I've already got one of them, but I haven't opened the box yet. So maybe if I open the box, I'll be able to reveal all things. But mainly, I'm building up a DAC army as well as the other 3 armies that I'm working on. But I wanted an 88 for that because I got a friend. His name's Dan, and he seems to do pretty well with his 88. So yeah, I thought I'd get one.
Yeah, they're scary in the game.
Yeah, but also for that DAC army as well, I thought, it'd be nice to get a highly mobile DAC army.
Right.
So I bought, I think, 4 guys on motorbikes and 1 with a sidecar.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to have like a motorized kind of
motorcycle
army.
Display troop.
Motorcycle army. Yeah.
Synchronized motorcycle display.
Yeah, but I've committed the usual crime that I do, which is I haven't actually gone to look at the rulebook to see what I can play. It's all very well to have 4 medium machine guns because they look good, but when you actually go to the lesson, it says 0 to 1. It's like, oh, okay, well that's all right. Dan will write a scenario where I can use all 4.
Well, I do like to try and write a scenario where you can actually use more things realistically and or less things to be realistic. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So that's a couple of things that I've done in the last 24 hours that I'm pretty happy about. And as I said, I got my Stalingrad books.
Nice.
And it came with a special miniature as well. So Vasily will get painted up. I'm thinking about maybe doing a painting tutorial on that, like a video one.
Nice.
See how I go.
Yeah, good.
See how hard it is to get the tripod and the macro lens around the light and my fat hands and everything while I do it. And if it's not too bad, I'll do it maybe time lapse so that you don't have to watch paint dry literally. Yep. But if it's too frustrating, I'll just I'll give up and you won't get anything.
Unless the patrons want it, and then you're giving it to them.
Wow. Then I'll give it to them.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
That's about me, really. I'm sure if I thought long enough and hard enough, I could. I managed to get a M10 tank destroyer and a box of the new US guys on eBay from someone that must have been coronavirus broke, and got quite a good deal on that. So, yeah.
I've got Africa Corps box, and I was thinking the other day, and I didn't realise you were building your Africa Corps army. I was thinking I should ask Rex if he wants to swap that US infantry box for my Africa Corps box, because you're doing work on the actual Africa theatre, and I haven't done diddly on it. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, well, I've already got a box of Africa Corps, so yeah.
But you want 2.
That is true. Do you find that actually? Do you find a slight segue from the segue? Do you find that a box of 30 guys is not enough?
I think it depends what scenario, what list and stuff you're building it for, really.
Yeah, I guess in Africa it's a little bit different. But if I'm building bulk standard Germans, well, I want some with late war assault guns, and I want some with Panzerfaust, I want some with Panzerschrecks, and I want this and I want that, and then of course I've got to have another whole set for earlier in the war. So perhaps you're right, it does depend on the theatre.
If you're building to a chain of command list, so their lists are actually the requirements for a platoon there. You need more figures than you do in bolt action and some other games. But also in bolt action, because you have the option to throw in more armoured vehicles and stuff like that in your list for sure, instead of just having it as a potential support option, that takes up obviously a chunk of your points. So you can have armies where a box will do the whole army, and then you'll have armies where they don't. So if you're building, say, an airborne force, then generally you'll need more infantry because it'll have less high-pointed support. unless you're going for a particular battle or theatre where they actually had that support with them. Like the Germans at Primrosoli Bridge had a lot of points expensive or flashier items in support because they joined together. Whereas if you're choosing British Airborne at the bridge in Arnhem, well, you might, if you really wanted to be, you could say that the 2 jeeps that made it through to the bridge are both with them, the 2 recce jeeps. But apart from that, which I suppose would be even stretching that selector, unless you had dual platoon. But apart from that, you're basically infantry. So if you're building British infantry, you need more infantry. Right.
Yeah, but they're all going to be veteran because apparently all British Airborne are tough as nails. So that cuts down on it as well.
True. Well, yeah. In the case of 2 para, 2nd Parachute Battalion, my mistake. Yeah, probably pretty much accurate, really. And much of 1st Parachute Brigade. But then, you start going deeper into the British Airborne and you start finding things, well, especially in the 6th Airborne Division, that, there's a lot of units that just sort of got drummed up and told they're now airborne infantry.
Yeah. Same with the Germans in late war too. You think, late war Germans, they're all going to be veteran because they're really experienced. They've been fighting since 1939, and so they're all going to be experienced guys. But the reality was that the attrition rate was so high, and they were just pulling guys off the street, kids and old men and whatever, and saying, right, you're off. So the late war stuff, sometimes, you're getting a lot of inexperienced, where in the earlier battles, you're actually getting proper trained, what do you call it when you're a soldier for life?
Yeah, well, you get lifers, you get, veterancy status, I guess, yeah.
Yep, as opposed to hastily conscripted Hitler Youth.
Yeah,
which
you're talking about. So the German word for it is Lancers. So that's the word for your average sort of veteran, old sweat sort of soldier. It's Lancer.
Right. Okay. All right.
Right, I suppose it comes down to just before we move on, I suppose it comes down to in bolt action. So we concentrate. I'm talking about chain of command as well. So in bolt action, you can have a theme that so in chain of command you have a theme based around a reinforced platoon. Like that's actually a reinforced platoon, with a TO and E and all that sort of stuff in it. Whereas in bolt action, your theme could actually be what you sort of want it to be, because you can choose a generic platoon and you can mix and match things together. So one thing I've noticed is, people have a different take on this, and I've mentioned it before. My take on a platoon is that, if I'm playing A Company 2nd Parachute Battalion, well, I might have 1 recce jeep in there because 2 made it to the bridge, and maybe I've got 1 in there because I'm representing a portion of that. But other people might have both in there because they see it as more of a, they want to achieve that. Other people might choose what some people calls a theme of, their theme might be good stuff. But if you ask the person playing it, they might have commandos and paras and something else because they all participated in the same theatre and maybe briefly hooked up. So that's their overview of actually realistically playing that force rather than a reinforced platoon, but making it fit that reinforced platoon, I suppose, orbit. Whereas to me, I try and play a reinforced platoon, so like a platoon of guys, maybe with 1 squad from another unit or something join in, and then a gun or a armoured vehicle or something in support of that platoon, which again they probably wouldn't be right next to them, so that's a little bit unrealistic in itself. But it's that same thing we come back to of, this is my bolt action. What's yours? And I'm not saying mine's right. I'm just saying that we all have a different take on things, and we all, when we look at how we can choose our armies, we all have a different view on it, and that comes back as well to people choosing or deciding on what, if they're a tournament organizer, what way they're going to dictate what theatre selectors and reinforced platoons or armour platoon or whatever they're going to have in their tournament as well. And it's good to have the guidelines there. It's interesting how people have mentally a different take on it.
Yeah, Yep, and the meta, as people say, from different countries and that as well. But that's interesting. One thing I know for sure is that we're going to have to record a Chain of Command game soon.
Yeah, well, now our club's back open again, but of course we're at 100 people max in the bar, and now we're situated at a workingmen's club. So once we set up, we're not really paying customers apart from buying lunch and maybe a Coke or something, because we're well involved, whereas other people are walking in down below and paying for meals and partaking in the paid entertainment and the games of lotto and housey and bingo or whatever. So I would imagine that sort of the people to leave, if they want to go over, or if they want to, when it gets close to 100 and there's people waiting outside, would probably be us at the moment, surely. I honestly don't know, and it hasn't been announced that way, but
yeah, that's an interesting point, because the place is going to be struggling because of having been closed up for some time.
Yeah.
They might want you because you're all great guys, but at the end of the day, they've got to keep the doors open and they've got to pay their staff. So.
Yeah, so they haven't hinted at that or anything like that. So this is not a bad thing about them. But where it comes back to is that, our gaming club started again, and I had organised that we were going to start playing a campaign, a Change of Command campaign, and I wanted to play a Kampfgruppe von Luck campaign, a pint-sized campaign by our two fat laddies, and I really want to start playing. I've played a couple of demo games, most significantly with Richard Clark, thankfully, thanks to him, of Chain of Command, but I really want to start, and as I mean to go on, by playing campaigns so that I can see if a game's a washout, because I need to withdraw my troops like I would realistically and all that sort of stuff, that I don't just see that as a one-off game. I want to play it as part of a campaign so I can see how that evens out over the course of it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And same when I come over to you, I think, we will keep playing Bolt Action. And someone asked me about this the other day on the YouTube comment, and I said, well, our intent is to play both, and who knows, maybe there's other games out there, and just in World War II I'm talking about, because there's definitely other games that we want to take up too, but definitely those two. Because if we want to go to an event and play 5 games or whatever, then, we'll be playing Bolt Action. If we want to go to an event, which we will at some stage, we want to play an event based around a Chain of Command campaign or scenario day or something like that, then we'll do that too. If we want to play together where we know we're going to get 6 turns and probably 2.5 hours, well, as a one-off, or Bolt Action's probably the game. But if we want to, and I do want to do this, probably simultaneously, in fact, from, we're playing Bolt Action one day, but then in the background we know we're up to game 3 of the Kampfgruppe von Luck pint-sized campaign. We just don't have time to play it today.
Yep.
Do you feel that way too?
Idea. Yeah, for sure. And I've got to really learn the game. I've had the
so do I
forever.
Yeah.
So I'll be looking forward to that, and so that'll be a bit stumbly initially. But I've got quite a few of the point-sized campaigns. I'm just looking at now the Operation Winter Storm one. I've got that, the Drive for Stalingrad. That plays right into my very latest painted miniatures. So that could be a possibility. But yeah, all right, plenty of games and not enough time to play them in.
Yeah, speaking of not enough time, I got some new stuff in the post just today. So I got my cobblestone 6x4 neoprene mat by Deep Cut Studios. I'm quite happy with that. The reason why I've ordered that is because I have been working really hard on stuff which I haven't shown the viewers or the listeners yet. I've been working really hard on the Fall of Berlin box. I've got all the buildings painted. I've got my German force all painted. As we know, I'm not. There's no need for me to make up the Soviet force in there because I've got the Soviet force already. I'm just finishing off the IS-2 tanks, and then it's all done. In the background, I've got some Renedra fencing, so like urban rail fencing and stuff. So I've got all that stuff that I've made up, and I'll be releasing a video soon of that stuff. It won't be on the mat because I filmed it already, but yeah, the mat comes into that, and we can use the mat sort of in any urban sort of thing. Throw down some brick dust for red brick or grey brick or whatever was predominant in the region, the town at the time, and yeah, got it on special too, which is great. 41% off. Can't complain about that.
Yeah, that was a great price. If that was available in Australia, I would have bought it in a second. Those mats are heavy, I guess, and they're difficult to ship.
Yeah, it's the postage. That's the reason why.
Yeah, they're so expensive. If I ever go, if I was ever going to Europe, put one in my backpack on the way back, I think, or a couple, because the cost over here is just astronomical.
Yep.
It's like $160-something plus postage, plus postage from the store to me kind of thing. And that's, I don't know, it's like $200 for a mat. It's just really more than I'm prepared to spend.
Well, I got an absolute bargain. I got this one for, I'd seen it the week before for $109 New Zealand dollars, and so that's like 33 cents American and 24 pence UK. And I was like, and I didn't get it, and I was like, I want it for the future, and I'm not going to get it that cheap again. And I was like, and then Queen's birthday weekend sale came up and it's $95, and I was like, yep, put the hammer down, got that straight away. I was waiting until the time frame clicked over. I didn't know it was on there, but I suspected, because they'd taken a chunk out of it already about 5 days before. I suspected, so I was literally waiting for the minute that sale started, and I got it.
Yeah, it's good. That's great. Yeah, we don't. That company that you're referring to doesn't also sells in Australia, and they do not sell neoprene mats in Australia at all. So if you want to buy it, you just can't.
We only sell the stuff that we've sneezed on, and then send it over.
Yeah.
We pack it in like used sneezed on tissues.
Yep.
So that brings you on to other hobby stuff we've finished recently. Excuse me. So what I have other work stuff I got on, it sort of comes into what I bought. I was totally anti-wargamer. I bought 2 Rubicon models. So a 25 SD KFZ 250 and 250/9, which is the autocannon hardtop turret. I got the expansion pack for that, and I bought a Schwimmwagen. I got them in, I made them, I painted them, and finished them. And
don't forget photograph them.
In a week.
So, yeah, that's amazing. Don't forget photograph them. You took them outside and put them in the natural kind of environment with that fluffy mat that you've got. The one that I was really cranky with, and I told you to send back, but maybe I was wrong on that.
Didn't I say that would look exceptional for Eastern Front?
Yeah, but it wasn't the colour that it was supposed to be, Dan. I was very unhappy with that.
Yeah, it wasn't. I was pretty unhappy. But now I am happy because I saw other potential in it. So anyway. Yep,
that's a story for another day. But yeah, and the photos are amazing. Just because of that colour of that mat and the long grass.
Yep.
And then with the background, you put it up with some actual trees. I'm not sure how. I can only imagine how you did it. Probably held it up with one hand and stood on one leg and leaned back and took the photo with the other hand, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it looks amazing. So yeah, they're really great. Valhallagames.net for those.
Yeah, one of the things I learnt when I was doing before I rejoined the army, I was working out a lot physically and stuff like that. I stopped wargaming just temporarily because I didn't want to buy any more stuff. When I moved into the barracks, I needed to whittle stuff down. Then my brother got me into bolt action, but that's a different story. But what happened was I actually started doing a bit of articulated comic book art. So that's getting basically posable action figures of like superheroes, or in my case, I'm particularly fond of G.I. Joe, and taking them out into an environment like the outdoors, and you might have a photo of, say, Spider-Man on top of a car park, but looking out over the buildings as if it sort of makes it to scale and sort of posing it realistically, so it's almost like you're taking a movie still. And taking those sorts of skills into using the models, taking them out into the wild and getting the sort of correct distance to trees behind the models and getting at the right angle on it so that the natural trees and then are in the background. Then you've got model trees in the middle distance and the foreground, and then you've got the models and something realistic for them to sit on. So it's just building up those layers, going from your models and artificiality into realistic surroundings. And I've done a few pictures like that now, and they seem to be really, really popular. So it's something I intend on doing if people continue to like them.
Yeah, no, they're outstanding. You have to give me some lessons. Yeah, they're really, really nice. Yeah, I think that's the one thing that, I painted some stuff that looks pretty good as far as I'm concerned. I'm nobody's best painter, but in terms of the photos, my best effort is generally a curved piece of white cardboard, and that's it. And that really sets the model off from the background, and it's great. But having them in their natural environment, I think it's just so much better. So I need to get on and do that. Maybe I need to buy one of those battle mats that you bought that I didn't like. I was very angry about. That turned out good in the end.
Well, you buy the other one. You buy the other one, and we'll see how that one turns out.
Yeah, maybe the other one will be the colour that the first one was supposed to be.
Yeah. So that's a shout out for Rubicon, I guess. Rubicon models, outstanding products those were. Thank you. Next shout out I'm going to give is to Offensive Miniatures, because I got the British Paratroopers Command set. So it's a 4-man set. I think the best British Airborne 28mm products out there on the market, in my opinion. And I am a paratrooper, and I'm pretty passionate about it. So that attention to detail is important to me. So I really appreciated doing those, and I put a lot of effort into them because I've got that pride. And again, I shot some photos, and those photos have got building stuff in the background. Those are also outside, and I sent them to Offensive, and Offensive posted them in their customer gallery, and then they've used them in a few posts on Facebook and stuff. And I'm really, really pleased that they enjoyed them, and other people are enjoying them. It was a real pleasure to see them get used like that, and for other people to see what great models they are, and hopefully go and turn that into sales, because it's a win-win, because the product's fantastic, and anyone who's wanting to go British Airborne would be just over the moon to get them in the hand.
Yeah, and they are really great. They're really nice. They're really nicely painted, Dan. You've done a fantastic job. I can't actually confirm this because it seems somewhat hard to believe, but I think your painting's actually getting better.
Well, I have the advantage that I have a bit of time to myself. And you have no idea. You have no idea how cranky that makes me. Yeah, I'm. When we haven't got a course in, and due to the COVID-19 things, we were in lockdown too, and on standby to get deployed places and stuff like that. We were a reserve. The government, the army, the government couldn't deploy us to do stuff we wanted to do. There's lots of stuff we wanted to do, but they had to hold a lot of our units in reserve for stuff that we might have had to do. And there's no good to do that if we were sick, controversial or not. So we were, we had time when we were just guarding our barracks and stuff like that. And, even on days like that, I was getting some painting in. Practice makes, well, in this case, you can't say perfect, but practice makes you a lot better anyway.
Yeah, well, will you slow down? Because I'm trying to catch up.
Well, maybe no fear of that, because I also painted an entire Waffen SS army while we were in lockdown.
All right.
Did you fall over there? You all right?
Yeah, I've seen it already.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. I mean, firstly, it's beautiful, but secondly, I am envious that I didn't have the time to do it myself. But that's all right. What I lose out in the amount that I've painted, I make up for in the amount that I have stockpiled. Yeah.
So that Waffen SS army, I'm painting it in the hope that I might get over to Moab this year. Andrew Brownrigg, who's the organiser, and he's been the co-organiser last time I went 2 years ago, and he done an excellent job at that, along with the other organisers. And basically, he threw it out there, someone could sort of get updates on their army painting and stuff, and I guess hashtag Moab Plague Army is what you're looking for if you want to check it up online. It's hashtag Moab, MOAB, Plague Army. And then you can check out everyone else who's hashtag that on social media as well. yeah, it's just a really positive thing to get people motivated to do a particular army rather than lots of bits and pieces of products, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. Well, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about that army, particularly being Waffen SS. We might do that after a break.
Well, hang on, I haven't finished what I painted yet.
No, I was just going to say, so move on to the rest of the long list of things that you've managed to achieve in the last few months.
Well, I got out my Battle for Berlin box, I said. So I finished the buildings in there, assembled them, painted them up, wrecked a couple of them. I'll reveal the pictures of those on a YouTube vid soon. I also painted up the Volkssturm and the Hitler Youth units that are in there. Basically, the last levy units that are in there. Some barricades. So I've really put a lot of hard work into that, and I figured, if we're doing urban stuff, if you're doing Stalingrad urban and I'm doing Battle for Berlin urban, well, we're sort of building all sorts of scatter and stuff that's going to be usable for both.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I've seen a couple of snippets of those. I've seen the buildings, but you haven't shown me any of the miniatures yet, so I'll be looking forward to seeing those for sure, especially the Hitler Youth. That's another one that's worth discussing, actually.
Yeah, it is, definitely. So why don't we take a break here and let the listeners listen to something. I'm not sure what it is yet, but enjoy whatever it is, and we'll see you back in a minute.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, let's get a drink. Everyone else get a drink, regroup, and we'll see you in a minute.
See you soon.
Bye. Hi everyone, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed the break. Now, Dan, you want to talk to me about the trials and tribulations of painting the most hated army on the planet. Is that about sum it up?
Yeah, pretty much. So like I said earlier, when I was painting the Waffen SS and the project I did, the Operation Upgrade I called it, it was a funny thing. I painted it and I was pleased with the effort that I'd done. I was proud of the way they looked as a wargaming unit. I put them up on YouTube. I was very happy with the way they're presented and stuff. And funny thing is, I started thinking to myself, am I presenting these guys as if I'm really happy about the Waffen SS and proud of them? Like, is there a difference? Is there a difference between being proud of the way I've painted my guys and am I overthinking it? And then somebody disliked it, which could have been a slip of the old thumb and stuff like that. And it's only one person, but it sort of just said to me that should I? It's very strange because you're wanting to do a good job, but I am actually not as proud of them as I are of other armies because of who they represent, really. And then by chance, the next thing's on my painting table, right? Which, a bit of a spoiler for those listening, were last levy for the Battle of Berlin, including, the Volkssturm, the citizen soldiers, and the Hitler Youth themselves fighting and the even younger Hitler Youth that they didn't drum up and send out to fight anywhere else was still there fighting in Berlin. So, it was a funny thing. Should I be feeling this conscious how I feel, or is it just about toy soldiers, or is it that we should feel this way, or is it something in between? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. I remember when we first started playing Bolt Action, and that was a little while ago. We had a conversation. I think we may have even put it on the podcast where we talked about this very, very briefly, and I think I said, I probably wouldn't play Waffen SS. Just there's other armies to play, and plenty of all that. But an interesting thing happens over time, right? You change your perception of things based on what you're exposed to all the time, and I think that's you go and live with a bikie mate that has tats all over him, and does the bikie thing, and before long, what's normal to you might have changed a little bit. You might be saying, hey, maybe I should go and get a tat or 27. Maybe I should buy a bike. And you know how I know this, Dan?
How?
Because when I went up to Queensland to work when I was 19, and a little Kiwi boy up in Queensland, it was a bit of a shock to the system. Up in Mackay, I stayed with a bike that was a bikey, bit of a bikey kind of a culture guy, and he had tats, and he was, let's buy a motorbike, we get around on, because we were working together on the same job, and before long, I was wearing those bikey t-shirts, and we bought a motorbike, and I was going to the gym, and it was just totally out of character. I got shocked back into my normal geekiness when I got back to hometown in New Zealand. So it was all good. But I think there is an element to that. You actually become desensitized to what you do, and whereas I might not have played Waffen SS a couple of years ago, I don't think I'd think a single thing of it now, because it's been normalised to some degree. But you are right; it is a very, very interesting concept. You imagine, and we've discussed this before as well. You're sitting down at the local RSL club or RSA club or wherever, playing a game, and some old bloke walks up to you and says, what are you playing with those guys for? Why has that got a swastika on it? I fought for that. I mean, how are you going to feel? Oh gosh, I fought against that. It would just be devastating, because we wouldn't want to offend anybody by it. So it is an interesting thought. Yeah.
The funny thing is that we've been trying to find the time to do this podcast for a long time, since during lockdown, since I did that Waffen SS army, and now suddenly, anti-fascism and stuff like that. I mean, there's rioting around the world. The world's gone mad. So I don't want to connect this to that, although, we're talking about fascism and stuff like that. I'm no fascist, I'm far from it. But I don't really want to connect the dots between that and this. Whatever people think about it, I just want to talk about this subject, and I hope people take it on just that merit alone. So I hope that can be viewed in isolation from all other issues that we see in the world today.
Yeah. Primarily, we're just about wargaming, but we are about wargaming in a historical context.
Yes,
so
we are.
I actually experienced a little bit of uncomfortableness, like what you're talking about, only last week. I took my daughter to an orthopedic surgeon, and we got in there, and we were waiting for the guy and everything, and I pulled out my my little tablet bag. In the back of my tablet bag, I had my brand new Stalingrad book, as you do. On the front page, there's a guy going hell for leather, shooting his machine gun and that. And then I actually thought to myself that the surgeon was German.
Right. Okay.
And I thought, he was, I don't know how old he'd be, probably late 50s perhaps. So certainly his parents would have been probably impacted by the war anyway in Germany. I know in Germany too there's a whole lot of regulations about German youth protection. I know that because on my filtering software on my internet that I have at home, there's a whole lot of checkboxes that you can look at. I don't want to see this, I don't want to see that, I don't want to see this. And then there's one for German youth protection. And little star underneath saying, we do not guarantee that this will protect blah, 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 blah. But, it is a real thing. And over here in Australia and New Zealand, where we live, it seems like a long way away. And we weren't in the war. We didn't sort of experience that. We weren't impacted on that particularly. And we didn't have anybody sort of directly suffer as a consequence of the war or be killed or whatever. But in Europe, in the UK and other countries, it's it's a lot more serious, a lot more close to home. So yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. Do we overthink it? Do we not? You've got here's another example. I don't think you've seen it yet, Dan, but it's mid 2020 now, and just recently come out on DVD. Is that movie Jojo Rabbit?
Okay. Yeah. No, I haven't seen it. No.
So the premise of it is that it's a little boy living in Germany in the very late 30s, early 40s, and he wants to become part of a club, as we all do. I went along to Scouts, and I think you went along to Scouts, and everybody loves being part of a club. But his club is the Hitler Youth. Yep. And his imaginary friend is Adolf Hitler. And I watched that movie, and boy, I was uncomfortable at the beginning. But towards the end, I actually went, I get what they're getting off now. I get what they're getting at now. It's not actually a comedy. It's not actually about downplaying it. And I probably won't go into too much more on it, but it's spoiler alert, all that. But it was really interesting. I think it was quite well done. And if you haven't seen it, I recommend you give it a look. Not PG, definitely not for children. In fact, I wouldn't even call it PG. I'd call it adults entertainment. But it was very, very interesting. Reflected on that a little bit, and I'm going to go and watch it again because I guess the subtext of the movie is a little bit hidden, and definitely makes you think. I don't know. Should we be that deep in wargaming, or should we just get on and play with our soldiers?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in some ways, I sort of just wanted to talk it through, and we're not going to have all the answers, but I certainly have some questions and hopefully food for thought for people. And I feel like I've got some answers about how I feel, that's for sure. So, I mean, it is interesting because we're playing with little plastic soldiers. And metal soldiers, of course. And I guess, we're playing historical events. So, the way I see it is I'm playing with painting, and so I can play war games with armies like the Waffen SS and people like that, and because they were there. I can't actually war game large areas of the war or important actions in the war without putting people like that, putting units like that there to be correct. I mean, I can't play Market Garden and have the majority of the troops, majority. Obviously, there were other units there, a lot of other units, but we've got 2 SS Panzer divisions there, and I can't realistically play most of Market Garden without having them there. I mean, is somebody suggesting that I shouldn't play with them because they're bad? They're bad people and they've done bad things, and historically they did bad things, stuff like that. Should I therefore just put generic Germans on the table? Well, I don't think that really does justice to the scenarios. For a start, realistically, as a plausible or realistic depiction of that scenario when I'm fighting it, and secondly, I actually think it somehow devalues the the opposition to those troops. So in this case, we have Waffen-SS, which have all the gadgets, all the toys. I mean, yes, I know they've been degraded at this stage. Yes, I know they're a lot shorter, and yes, I know they've got make-do weapons and tanks and stuff like that. But generally, they have been issued the best stuff. And if I put, an Ostripan bloomin' force on the table, there, it's not going to be the same. I'm devaluing, my opponent and I suppose almost the memory of the British airborne guys that were there, because they were fighting the best. Perhaps not that at their best, but they're fighting the best, arguably, very arguably, that Germany had at the time.
Yeah, and I guess what are we potentially, hypothetical what are we objecting to? Are we objecting to, to violence? Are we objecting to killing a lot of people? Are we objecting to political ideals? I mean, all Germany fought under the political ideals of Hitler to some degree. But we often say, good men caught in a bad situation, for both sides. Most people don't want to go off to war and kill people. Certainly there's the exception. Like that crazy guy with one arm and one eye. Who's that guy? Yeah, that guy. Yeah, it is interesting because if you're talking about
how do these players feel about playing a PC or a console game like Medal of Honor? Do they not play them?
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, that's and that's you're
or is
deliberately
it okay
doing the
because
violence.
they're the good guys shooting people. In which case, if they're signing up and the mission is to kill, well, how does that make them feel when they stop and think about it? Oh, we're killing bad guys. Well, the other guys on the other side of that computer, which are replicating people in real life, they were killing their enemy too. But then I believe that it's not about the combat prowess of these units. I believe it's other things like the racial and the racial cleansing and stuff like that. The atrocities against the enemies. Breaching the Geneva Accords. And also atrocities against civilian population. And my question is, if we feel this way about Waffen-SS,
Before you go on to that, can I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
Because I've got something to throw in because I think I know where you're going with this. But if we're talking about atrocities against civilian populations, have you heard of this little thing called Firestorm in Dresden?
Yep.
So that was, if you haven't heard about it, guys,
Bomber Harris.
Yep, go and look it up because that'll shock you. And there was this other little place too. I think it was called maybe Hiroshima. So that was a pretty, that was directly against civilian population, and that was us. So how do we feel about that? Are we uncomfortable about that as well, or do we, what is it? The motivation? Is it the racial thing? Is it the violence? Is it the violence against non-combatants? I mean, it just starts to spiral out of control, doesn't it?
I have never seen anyone complain about someone playing partisan armies. In fact, I see people get really excited about playing partisan armies, the party bus and, partisans this and partisans that. And undoubtedly partisans, one man's freedom fighter, but that's also another man's terrorist as well. And if we're talking about people, not really having a command structure and strictly obeying the rules of war, well, there's a prime offenders there. The partisans, the Marquis, the, Tito's partisans, all that sort of stuff. Do people feel the same about that? I put to you that they do not. They don't see that at all.
Yeah.
When they put that army on the table. I'm not talking about viewing it in history. I'm talking about playing it on the table. Why does no one going to issue them? So what about Allied units that committed atrocities?
Yeah,
there
are some of those too, yeah, for sure.
Yes, there is, and that's just the ones we know about. What about the terrible things that the average German soldier and the average Soviet soldiers, in some cases or in many cases, depending on evidence, did to the civilian populace of both of both cultures as they were rampaging through their land. They're really, there's a message there about having humanity for your opponent and his people there. And once you stop viewing the enemy and their culture as people and humans, you really leave yourself open for the same in return. It's a powerful message that probably came out of the Second World War.
Yeah, it's definitely food for thought, isn't it? And again, so we're a long way from Europe here, right? You lived in the United Kingdom for a while. You lived in Ireland for a while.
Yep.
We
are, and I know earlier when you spoke about us not being touched by some of the stuff of the Second World War, I know you're talking about things like racial cleansing and stuff like that, and concentration camps, whereas obviously our countries were touched by Second World War, but just not that particular part, although there are citizens of our countries who undoubtedly would have unfortunately gone through it.
Yeah. No, I mean us personally, you and I. I mean our grandfather went to the war, but he came back. But we didn't have all of our family wiped out and sent to the gas chambers. We didn't have all of those terrible things happen to us. But we nearly did, because while war was rampaging across Europe, as you say, the Japanese were coming down from Japan, island hopping down and attacking Australia, which Australia and New Zealand, let's call it one conglomerate from this. That's our country. They were in our harbour. They were bombing our cities. So from that perspective, more directly,
we had German raiders around our country, destroying shipping, hiding out the Pacific Islands. We undoubtedly had Japanese interests in our area as well. We had a home guard here. We had, most men fighting in Europe in the 2nd New Zealand Division. Our grandfather being the first echelon, the first boat to go away, and the last to come back, fought the entire war. And I can guarantee you, I've never asked our grandmother about this, but I can guarantee you he sent her home a letter saying what to do if the Japanese invaded.
Yeah.
And there was most men had we're a farming industry, there was weapons and stuff like that around, and most men made sure their wives knew where the ammunition and the bolt to the rifle was and stuff like that, and if the Japanese came, because we'd seen what had happened in Singapore. Men, women or children, in that area there, unfortunately, all the nurses and stuff like that, it was horrific. And there was plans told to the women and the family folk at home.
Yeah, so I guess, listen to Valhallagames podcast and, bring yourself down to the depth of despair. But, it is food for thought, and it's worth thinking about, I think. But let me tell you this. So, first, I guess, Japanese very brutal island conquering tactics. Let's just leave it at that.
The regime at the time was
brutal.
Yep.
So do we have a problem playing Japanese? As much as WWII and SS. Maybe we should have more, because we're Australians and New Zealanders, at least on this side of the world. But I think one thing that has just sort of dropped into my mind with this, because I can't unravel it, Dan. I don't know what the answer is. I'm a bit uncomfortable about it in certain circumstances. And certain armies make me a bit more uncomfortable. Certain armies I don't think I would play. Do I have a good reason? Probably not. But I tell you what, though, how long have we spent just chatting about this?
A little while, but it's time well spent, because I think there's a bit more to talk about it still yet. What do you think?
Well, I think this is my point. I mean, conversations will be ongoing, but the point is that we play little soldiers. They're plastic. Ultimately, it's a game, but we've just had a in-depth, thoughtful conversation about events that have happened 75 years ago. and longer, that has made us think about things and consider things and kind of work out that maybe it was a bad idea. It might be fun to play, and sometimes you have to get involved, and sometimes you have to stand up to the bullies, but ultimately it's a bad thing when everybody goes to war and everybody's shooting everybody else, because it can bring out the worst in all of us. So from that perspective, wargaming's given us something that we may not have ever discussed before, Dan.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting point. So, because we're saying everyone's got a choice and everyone draws a line somewhere, and I'm going to go into some of mine later. Well, actually, I'll talk about one of mine now. So I did my last levy for the Battle of Berlin with the very young Hitler Youth, and I based them completely different to any other army I've ever done. Completely different colours. Yes, they got urban rubble basing, but completely different to anything else.
Oh, why is that?
Reason for that is I actually don't ever see me putting them in a field or something and fighting. I don't really want to play with with just makes me uncomfortable playing with very young kids. But in the same thing, at painting them up, I thought to myself, but I thought somebody might come along one day and watch our game or see a video and be like, what is that? How old are those kids? What is going on there? Because they just don't know. And then it'll be our food for thought to tell these people, yeah, these kids were given Panzerfausts and weapons, and as a last ditch basically told, you need to defend your mum and your baby sister, get out there and stop the Russian invaders, do whatever you need to do. And right or wrong, regardless of what's going through there, whether that person was fully indoctrinated and would have left Berlin to continue to do those things had they beaten back the Russian invaders, or were they just picking up weapons to defend, as I say, their mum and baby daughter, or whatever the case is. I think somebody needs to continue to tell the stories that this happened, to open people's eyes to it and say, well, maybe, like you said, this shouldn't happen again. It's a danger. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? Because you talk about Hitler Youth, as a broad thing, and then you talk about them in the context of, trying to go into Russia and, take over land in Russia, hypothetically. Well, that's one thing, but as you say, if they're protecting their own family in the middle of Berlin somewhere when somebody else is attacking them, well, is that another thing again? Is that should we have stopped the war at the border of Germany, because then we became the invaders? It's all just, it spirals out of control into crazy ideas and concepts pretty quickly. But yeah, it's it is very interesting.
So we talk about it. If we talk about it in gaming terms, so let's remove ourselves a little bit from historical and talk about it in purely gaming terms. So what if I take my Waffen SS army to an event, say? What if that event has, put the answer out saying, as many do, if you can play Allies and Axis, let us know. And they come back to me and say, we've got lots of Allied players, can you bring your Axis army? And I say, yeah, sure. So bring along my Axis army, and let's say I take the Waffen SS. I turn up there, and someone refuses to play me. Now, I'm not going to judge where that person's line in the sand is, because that's probably wrong for me to do. Alright, that is their line in the sand. However, where does that leave you in an event? Let's call it an event or a tournament if you want to call it that. Where does that leave you? What happens?
Yeah.
It's a bit funny. So are certain players therefore suggesting that we shouldn't have any of our traditional enemies on the battlefield because they were, in commas, I don't know if it's bad. And if so, who will we therefore play our armies against? are we suggesting we play allies versus allies because they are okay in inverted commas to play?
Yeah.
Or so we never have. Again, this is depending which side of the fence you're on. Red versus blue, or do we need to have blue versus blue because blue is good?
Yeah, and then you've got the friendly fire thing. Like, why are you shooting our good guys? Like, why are you killing our good guys? It just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, it is. And
tournament points stuff. That's I turn up, someone refuses to play me. Well, are we going to penalise that person because that person stood up for their interpretation of it? Or are we going to penalise me because I've got the Waffen SS army and that person, it's an army of questionable historical behaviours? Or does that person get docked and I get full points because I turned up to play the game? It's a bit of a funny old situation, isn't it, really?
It is. I mean, if I was a TO, I'd probably say, well, you guys roll a d6 and that's it. You're the winner, and then
Well, is that fair? Because my army would have been judged legal to take by the tournament organiser prior to me going, and it would have been Axis versus Allies. And in this case, I was told to bring an Axis army, and I brought an Axis army. So
True.
Why have I done something wrong? And I've turned up an army which fought in the war, and actually by playing against the Allied forces, it actually, like I said earlier about the Market Garden situation, I'm not, I'm putting an actual realistic force on the table. So all I'm saying is it's a funny situation, isn't it?
Yeah, well, to play devil's advocate there, so me as the TO, I don't want to have that awkward situation where one guy won't play another guy and the other guy says, well, I was hoping to win and these are the points that, that could have took me over the line for the tournament. So do I then say, okay, so no controversial armies in my tournament, thank you? And then what qualifies as a controversial army? To which I'd go,
well, what is a controversial army?
I know.
These guys were there.
I know. So no Waffen SS, obviously in inverted commas. What about no Japanese? Obviously in inverted commas. What about no partisans?
What about no partisans?
Yeah.
So how's another one? How's another one? Let's look at French. So people turn up, and French is a great one for bringing into a tournament because they can be on either side.
Yep.
Literally on the day they could play for the other side. However, I put to you this. So are Vichy French collaborators and traitors to their country, even though it was in inverted commas, legal ruling political and military wing of the country at the time? And so if they're collaborators and traitors to their country, I'm putting that in the commas as well. How does that stack up against the German soldier or even Nazi, the same defence that they were following the commands of their country at the time? But I'm not going to answer that. But all I'm going to say is, when those people are playing Vichy France, do they have same feelings about what those people supported against their own countrymen in the same way that they do for other armies?
Yeah, and then you've got the thing of hypothetically, if Germany had won the war, then who was the good guys then? Was it the Vichy French or the Free French? It's like, what a maze! What a maze! It gets crazy real quick, doesn't it?
Yeah. So here's my feelings on it, right? In my opinion, right, or my feelings that everyone's entitled to draw the line where they wish. It's their hobby. It would be helpful, in my opinion, if people would maybe ask the question why their potential opponent was playing an army that they wouldn't choose to play. So say Mr. X across the table from me, before he says, no, I'm not playing that, if he said, well, why have you chosen to play that?
Why have you chosen to put that field that force? You're saying, why have you chosen to field your Japanese or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah. And my answer would be, look, I can't play historical or historically plausible scenarios without having the correct troops present. And if I don't have those units, then I can't represent how a friendly Allied force fought so hard against a fanatical foe armed with, I suppose, technological wonder weapons at the time, and the Allies still come out on top. If I don't have that represented on the table, and instead I have a bunch of courageous but misrepresentative, say, here soldiers, whose rules don't represent the actual historical enemy, then I think I'm doing it an injustice. And just like I wouldn't think of avoiding showing the very real threat we're facing at the time through accurate representations of equipment, insignia, etc. So, if I'm modelling a unit and I don't, and they had a swastika on it, I might consider putting it on there if it was of use. If it was of use in some way to adding authenticity to that. I'm not going to suddenly start putting swastikas all over things for no good reason, obviously. But if, for instance, I was maybe doing an exact replica of a historical vignette of a commander or something like that, and he's, looking at a table and pointing out something on a map, and his vehicle's got a swastika in the background, well, I would probably put that on, because that is showing exactly what it was like on that day at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't much have a problem with the swastika. It's
I don't know its
for
historical
sure.
concept, and I know that's exactly what you were talking about either.
Yeah.
But I would certainly not shove it down anybody's throat. But if I was doing, as I say, an exact replica of it, then I would. I wouldn't put excessive, just put them everywhere just to sort of, I suppose, go over the top. But, I would have it represented if that was what the unit or whatever had at the time. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, there are alternatives about that if you're uncomfortable with it or you don't think that's a good idea. We've both got Fallschirmjäger armies. You don't need to have a swastika on the side of your army box. You can have the Fallschirmjäger eagle.
Which, of course, has a swastika on it.
Well, yes, there is that. There is that slight detail, but yeah.
But on the figures themselves, I mean, you can't see a swastika on there. You can see the storming eagle on there, and I guess at the 28mm scale, you can't really see it. So yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how they feel in other countries about this. I'd love to get some email actually. Send us an email at podcast@valhallagames.net. Let us know what you think. Tell us where we're wrong or right. I wonder how they think if they play bolt action in Japan. I wonder if they're uncomfortable with the US Army. I wonder if the French play. I know the French play bolt action. I wonder if they play both sides. I wonder if they play Vichy French as well. I wonder how the Italians go if they play bolt action in Italy. It'd be definitely interesting to see. And I wonder how ultimately, the big one, of course, is how Germans feel about it. There was a podcast recently, I think it was Down Order, and they were interviewing a couple of German guys that had come across for a tournament in the UK, and they went into a little bit of detail, and it was very interesting to hear about that perspective.
Christian and, I'm sorry, the other guy escapes my memory. His name, they had a YouTube channel called 040, the digits 040 Wargaming, I think. They haven't posted for a wee while, but very educational and lovely guys to listen to. So yeah, that was good.
Yeah, so it's definitely food for thought. I guess it's cultural, and it's sensitive as well. I mean, one thing that I don't really have a lot more to add, Dan. I don't really have any answers. I don't really have the golden tick on what to do. But one more perspective I just wanted to add, from myself, is we also are representing the hobby as well. So what I might do down at the local club or in my garage might be different to what I do at a public event like Moab in Sydney that we'll hopefully be going to later this year. We have people from all walks of life potentially coming in, and even more so your event that you had, your Big D-Day event that you had at Christchurch Wargaming Club, where you're having real civilians, people that know nothing about wargaming coming in as well. So I think, it comes back to a little bit of what I talked about before. We can be desensitized to things, and I think my main caution would be outside the hobby. How am I portraying things outside the hobby, and being a little bit more sensitive to that, because I'd love to get more people in, because the more people we get in, the more conversations we can have like this, and the more we can highlight those darker points in history that that really shouldn't be forgotten. While at the same time, most of the time that is just having a good time, getting some guys on the table, shooting some little plastic men at some other little plastic men, and entertaining ourselves. So I guess that's about all. That's about the only other things that I can think of, Dan. I don't have any answers for you. What about you?
Like, I don't think this is about getting the answers. It's just having people question things, and to reassure people it's okay they're questioning it, but maybe also just spend the time to talk to the other person across the table and see why they've played it, because there's probably need to be just as aware of constructive reasons why others are choosing to play with them. As I said, because actually they're honouring the enemies of those, in other words, probably the Allied forces, or not, the German forces against an Allied unit that was doing something atrocious, But it might not be that they've painted them because they, in inverted commas, love them or can't wait to play with them or idolise them, but rather they just want to be plausible on the tabletop, because it really does make sure that the fallen can continue to be remembered. We shall remember them, just like our D-Day game and so many others that we do.
I like it. Good thoughts. Send us an email, people. We'd love to find out. Send us an email or comment on the YouTube. All right, here's a segment that you've all been waiting for. What are Rex and Dan been reading? We do a bit of reading. I wish I could do a lot more reading, but whenever I read, Dan, I just fall asleep. Do you have that problem?
Yeah.
I think it's old guy syndrome.
When you introduced it like that, I thought of the wedding singer when he says, "Money, I have a little. I'd like some more."
Yeah, actually, I had a wedding singer quote today in reference to one of the members of my family. I won't say which. I said that this person was a little uneven.
Okay, right.
Like the song. If you haven't seen The Wedding Singer, you got to watch it. It's a classic. It's a classic. It's right up there with.
It's through old now. It's a classic.
Yeah, up with. It's, I don't know, Casablanca. It's up there with Casablanca. Maybe not. All right, where was it? Books. Right, I haven't read a lot. I've read a little. But one that I did find, Secondhand Bookshop, and I've been talking about this with you, Dan, is it's a book called German Army Uniforms of World War II in Colour Photographs.
Oh, yeah.
This is back in the day when there wasn't a lot of creativity in the name. It was just what it says on the can. It's by Wayne Krauschkick. Sorry, Wade. And it's published in 1995. So I'm pretty sure you won't be able to go and get it at your local Barnes and Noble or whatever the bookstore is, but it's a great book, and sometimes you find these gems, especially in secondhand bookshops and that, and it's got every picture of every German Second World War uniform that you could ever want, in good quality colour photos, mostly on mannequins, good quality colour photos that actually represent the colours properly, rather than you've seen the old books that are really yellowed and the pictures are yellowed and the printing process was really bad, and so you get it and it's like, oh, is that white or is it like light khaki or is it yellow, and it's not really that much use. But
actually, because you sent me the book, I have to back you up on that. I think one of the strengths of it is, is it a mannequin? I thought it was just the same dude or something pretty much in every picture, but one of the strengths was he's got a white background. So everything's got its colour. You're not being affected by the colour being thrown through a canopy or off the cam or the wall next to the person, as you say. He's just got that white background, you're getting the actual colour.
Yeah, and they got pictures of guys with field glasses, guys with like a mess kit, guy holding a telephone, like a field telephone and that sort of stuff. It's just, as you go through, it's not just the uniforms, but all kinds of books and baggage and valuables and whatever. So yeah, it's really great. Now I don't think you're going to be able to go out, as I say, and just buy that. But I guess the takeaway message is, if you see a secondhand bookshop, bore your wife or partner and say, "Oh, you just come in here, dear, and have a quick look." Go through the military section, and you never know what sort of gems you'll come across, and cheap too.
Yeah, good.
What about you, Dan? What have you been reading?
All right, well, I have been reading a couple of books partially, but one book I have finished actually ties in with a segment that you spoke about a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of podcasts ago, Rex. You ready for the drum roll?
I am.
Drum roll, Rex.
I'm excited.
Give me the drum roll.
Blah, 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 blah.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, so I would like to wargame, and it ties into this book. The book is Orsonia. Now, I probably pronounced that wrong, although I have looked it up on my How to Speak Italian app. So Orsogna. So Orsonia. That's the name. It's an Italian town. That is the name of the title, and the subtitle is New Zealand's First Italian Battle. It's by an author called Geoffrey Plowman, who is a well-published author, and in particular, he does a lot about New Zealand and New Zealand armour. So Orsonia is a little hilltop town on the Adriatic coast of Italy, and as such, and hilltop, very much a very hilly region above the Mora River, and it's on the Jim and the Bernhardt line. So the New Zealand division found itself after moving to Italy, after the furlough men returned and stuff like that. So there's a lot of reinforcement troops, and a lot of the furlough men had returned to the division as well after a lot of casualties and the refit they'd had. So they had their own armoured brigade then as well. They created the 22nd Motor Battalion, which our grandfather was in, to support the armoured brigade. And really, it's a story about the blooding of that, what's essentially was a battle-hardened division, arguably the best performing division in the Western Desert and Tunisian campaigns, in the Commonwealth forces, and really. They've reached a point where they're actually a shadow of themselves. They have new concept, their own armour, because they've been let down so many times by British and other Commonwealth forces armour. So that's a new concept they're trying to do. They've got a motorised battalion there. That's a new concept. They have got furlough men who have come back. And they've got the new replacements. New replacements are pretty obvious, but one of the things about the furlough men is that these men have been fighting for 4 years already, most of them. And veterans get to that certain point of the conflict where it's well recorded that it's a phenomenon where they start thinking that, how far can they push their luck? How far can they, as their number must almost be up? And you even get fully blooded battalions like the Māori battalion that wasn't quite itself when we got to Italy, because these men are just starting to think, I've done my part, I must be pushing my luck now. And all these factors together, accompanied by the fact they reach a very efficient Panzer Grenadier Regiment and German Fallschirmjäger dug in Orsonia itself on the heights, and they're attacking from a valley up the heights to try and take this town in winter, which is the first European winter many of these men have ever seen. It's a real blooding for the division, and it doesn't all go well, in fairness, but it's a very, very it's a very almost like personalised account. There are so many first-person accounts in there from both sides. Photography shown by that was taken by Germans, including the Fallschirmjäger, as well as that taken by the Allies. Very, very close, intimate action reports, after-action reports in there from the commanders on the ground. and I really want to play it because I think it'd be fantastic, and it's inspiring me to play it in either Chain of Command most probably, once I fully get to grips with how the campaign works and fully get to grips with comfortably playing it, not just turning up and having a bash, but comfortably playing it so I can concentrate on the enjoyment of the experience. And I think it'd support like a bolt action or in Chain of Command, like a bit of a low level armoured platoon. It'd be very, very interesting.
Yeah, right. Sounds good. What's the name of the book again?
Orsogna. So Orsogna.
Okay, interesting.
And the subtitle is New Zealand's First Italian Battle. The writer is Geoffrey Plowman. And the publisher, at least of this edition, is WSP, which is Wilson Scott Publishing.
Yeah, right. I'll have to check it out. I don't know the place, which that's not surprising. I don't know the battle, and I don't really know anything about New Zealand forces in the Second World War. To be honest, I'm really lacking on there. I've got the whole, Hollywood. I've got the Hollywood version of World War II. Whatever came across the silver screen, that's what I know about. I need to dig deeper. And I'm looking forward to that too. Just got to find some more time and not fall asleep while reading.
Yeah, well, in many ways, I have to say, for anyone who's going to pick this book up and read it, it is inconclusive in its findings. There is no great and glorious breakthrough. There is no great and glorious defeat as well. However, what it does throw up is the human experience of command, control, the very real challenges on the battlefield, especially that New Zealand has faced, having so many new concepts and so many new things to them. And so in some ways it's inconclusive, but it leaves all those answers there that would be ready to be, I guess, wargamed and experienced and tested by the wargamer. So in some ways it's a perfect thing for a wargamer to do, because there were so many questions and so many actions where, both sides were found wanting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel a new scenario coming on, a new campaign coming on, rather.
Yeah, well, I think our intentions maybe to stray a little bit away from Italy and Sicily from now and go and do some other stuff, isn't it?
Yep. We've definitely got things. We won't drone on about that anymore, but we've definitely got things in the pipeline for sure. If you're not sure what we're talking about, go and check out our latest, latest as of now, beginning of June 2020, battle report, where we talk about the latest in our latest game in our Primasoli Bridge campaign. So check that out, and that'll fill you in a bit more on what we've got in mind, and that is well advanced too, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, for sure. Then after that, we're going to dabble in some other theatres, and I'm looking forward to it. I suppose post-COVID-19, our wargaming club's just underway here now in New Zealand, which is great. I heard the laddies looking at our shores enviously on the oddcast the other night, saying they've got wargaming again. They're wargaming in New Zealand.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're lucky, and I'm looking forward to getting some more games done and getting some new armies put on the table. So shall I announce what the winner was for my next project?
Yes.
By popular vote?
Yes, do that.
Okay, good. So this has been a few days since our last part, the first part of this podcast, has to be said. So I've now, I guess, counted all the submissions via email and phone and replies on our YouTube and stuff like that. So the winner is I'm going to do the American Civil War, both armies, and I am going to do the American Airborne and the German Pioneers as well, the early to mid-war Pioneers too. So I'm going to be doing 3 armies, give myself a break from Field Grey, move on to Olive Drab, give myself a break from Olive Drab, move on to 2 different shades of Prussian Blue and or Confederate Grey. How does that sound?
Sounds good. And do you have a deadline for this? End of the month, maybe? Being 3 weeks away.
I'll need another lockdown for that, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Yeah, okay.
No, it's going to be put on a longer thing. I'll probably take a pause, especially in the case of the Civil War one, because there's so many models to make up. I'll probably take a pause somewhere in between, finish one, dabble in some other stuff, and then come back to them. But yeah, it's going to be an ongoing one. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, fantastic. All right, and as we discussed in the first half of the podcast, I'm going to get my act together and decide what I'm going to do next. I might put that out for poll as well, in terms of videos. But we've got a few in the pipeline anyway, so they'll be coming real soon. Well, that's about all I've got for this evening, Dan.
Yeah, me too.
So I guess we're back into it. Lockdown's lifted and it's all happening. We're full speed ahead. We're both painting up multiple armies all at once. We're both excited. I'll be looking forward to getting back down to the slightly modified local club, however that's going to pan out. And if it doesn't pan out, I'll just be having people at my house, because I need games. I need games bad. It's like a drug.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. All right. Well, that's it for me.
Yep, and that's it for me as well. Stay classy, your Sonia.
All right, Dan. Look after yourself, and I'll talk to you real soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny